Did the Milwaukee Brewers just make their move ahead of a wide open MLB postseason? What's up? Welcome to the Baseball Insiders. It's a beautiful Monday. We are back in action, regular schedule. Happy to see you. I am Adam Weinrib, joined as always by FanSided's MLB insider Robert Murray to break down the latest in the postseason races. Couple DFAs, one still floating in free agency, one lands with an unexpected team. And in this wide open postseason, did any teams take major steps forward this week or eliminate themselves entirely? Here to talk me through it, FanSided's MLB insider Robert Murray. Robert, how are you doing, dude?
I'm doing great. I am slightly confused, though, why Justin is so anxious to get Paul Skeens out of Pittsburgh, but that's a question for another day. But I'm doing
hit me
great.
with a little Clay Holmes, like, hey, I don't do the Baseball Insiders just to read negative facts about the New York Yankees and spin and slander, even if the slander is true. So let's clean up the comment section.
Yeah, especially with the Cowboys stuff. We can't have that in the Baseball Insiders here today.
No.
But yeah, I'm doing great. We got lots of baseball talk. We got stuff about the Milwaukee Brewers, the Atlanta Braves, and a bunch of other stuff going on right now. Lots to talk about. Should be a good time. Adam Weinrib, good to be here with you, good sir.
Good to be here with you. Good to be with everybody who has joined us in the Discord around the deadline. If you liked what you saw, you had the ability to ask Robert and I questions between shows, and we loved having you and hearing from you. Would love to keep seeing you in the Discord. Also want to make a mention that if you like Robert's work and you want more of it, you can find us in the Discord. You can find him on fansided.com. But you should subscribe to the Moonshot, which is our weekly baseball email newsletter here at FanSided, where the FanSided MLB team, including the one and only Robert Murray, who's on the screen right now, break down all the biggest stories in the big leagues with humor, insight, and behind-the-scenes info. So we'll make it easy for you to join and subscribe there. We'll send you that info. We'd love to see you. Please join that list. I got back from a trip. Y'all saw I was on the road on Wednesday. If you are subscribed to the Baseball Insiders, you saw that I did 3 Major League Baseball games in 3 different venues in 48 hours. We got the White Sox done. White Sox Yanks saw Aaron Judge's 300th home run. That was a good time. Yankees stink. Saw the Milwaukee Brewers play the Los Angeles Dodgers up at American Family Field, formerly known as Miller Park, should still currently be known as Miller Park. Nothing sadder than seeing the American Family graphic up on the side of that ballpark. It's just the words American Family. Not interesting. A reminder of what once was and what should be again. Then came back down to Chicago, went to Wrigley Field to cap it all off. And the most impressive thing I saw this week, and the most impressive thing I think a lot of people saw this week, was what the Milwaukee Brewers did after losing the first 2 games of their series to the Los Angeles Dodgers. Now, Robert's been on the Brewers for quite a while, so this is not the first time that we're spotlighting the Brewers on this show, but it felt timely, not just because I got to watch it in person and see 40,000 people show up for a 1:00 day game on a Thursday, a game in which Devin Williams came on, proved he was healthy, struck out pinch hitter Mookie Betts and Shohei Ohtani to end a late comeback and complete the save, splitting the series. The Brewers then went on, in the wake of my visit, to sweep the first place Cleveland Guardians. Again, not crediting myself, but I was there and then that happened. So that's for everybody else to decide. In case America wasn't noticing before, those 5 in a row should have clued everybody in. And I know that we've hinted in the past they might be getting even stronger down the stretch. You are as big a Jacob Mizorowski fan as there is. And you've mentioned a few times that he could be on the horizon. So wanted to start this show talking about the Brewers surge, and it's especially timely because of how wide open this year's postseason is. Just like that, after this recent stretch, the Brewers right up there with the many teams that are on pace for 90 to 95 wins and the many teams that share the best record in baseball. It's the Phillies again, right ahead of the Yankees and O's and Dodgers and Brewers and Guardians, and everybody's clustered up there. So why not the Milwaukee Brewers, who made a big old statement in the middle of August?
Yeah, why not the Brewers? You know, there was some notion going around on Twitter that they couldn't beat good teams. And this latest stretch here, I think finally probably put that to bed. I mean, if not, then I don't know what they have to do to prove it. But this Brewers team is legit. Like, you look at it, coming into the year, people were thinking that their rotation could take a step back after losing Corbin Burns. And like, losing Burns is a huge blow. And they've dealt with some injuries there, but they've managed to hold it together. Their bullpen has had some really key contributions, and they just got Devin Williams back. And that outing those outings, I should say, against the Los Angeles Dodgers really proved that he's back, that he remains elite, and that the Brewers bullpen, which was already a strength, has already gotten a lot better. And it's going to be very curious to see exactly how they overcome the Christian Yelich injury and how much of a blow that is, because there's no sugarcoating it. Losing Yelich is a huge blow. He was awesome in the first half of the season, and they already subtracted from their outfield depth at the deadline to get Frankie Montas. So we'll see exactly how they overcome it, but they have ingredients in place to be a World Series team. This season, to me, has shown that they are a World Series team, and it just so happens to, they just so happen to have the manager of the year, or most likely manager of the year, and Pat Murphy, who has done a masterful job of maximizing this roster, putting players in position to succeed, and the players in Milwaukee love him. He's a hard-nosed guy, but he's a teddy bear. He's a softie, but he gets stuff done. The players respect him, and you got to see that when he was the bench coach under Craig Counsell, and he has it's been a seamless fit for him. And as you alluded to before, Adam, I would absolutely imagine that Jacob Misiorowski is going to be up sooner rather than later. He has been moved to the bullpen in the minors, and he looks very good. He looks more comfortable there. I don't have a necessary, I don't know the time frame exactly, but I don't think it's going to be too long. So Misiorowski will only help the Brewers. It'll strengthen an already very good team. And you're going to hear me yapping about Misiorowski and the Brewers come postseason time, because I think, and I am on the record in saying this, I think he is the next Corbin Burns in Milwaukee. I think he is going to be that good.
That city, that team already has a solid foundation, and adding a pitcher with that level of upside can only energize these people more. And they were plenty energetic at that Thursday afternoon. The ballpark was overflowing on a rainy, disgusting Thursday too, in the middle of a beautiful stretch before and after. Those fans really packed that ballpark. And this is the kind of reporting you can only get from someone whose boots were on the ground in Milwaukee for like 8 hours. The team store sells Pat Murphy jerseys, in case anyone on the outside is wondering what that manager means to that city right now. I also bought a jersey. If anybody can guess what that jersey was, I will mail you a nice pat on the back. But yeah, Pat Murphy jerseys in the team store. Local beers. Milwaukee, go out and have yourself a second half, and hopefully a long postseason run, because you deserve it. Something I have been struggling with when I'm trying to determine which of these many teams with identical records should be the quote-unquote favorite in either league. I can't decide, and I go back and forth every day or every week, whether all this parity means it's more likely that a team like last year's Diamondbacks is the one holding the trophy at the end of the season, a team that nobody expects, the Twins, the Royals. Shout out on your season so far. But I think if we cut to November and the Royals were hoisting the World Series trophy, I think a lot of people would be surprised. But I can't decide if it's more likely that sort of one of these teams no one anticipates goes on a run, or that all this parity means that a team like the Dodgers or a team like the Astros, with all the talent in the world and all the star power in the world and all the expectations preseason, has they both performed to somewhat middling degrees overall. The Astros are obviously heating up, but you wonder if talent wins out of the end and we get a World Series matchup and we go, okay, yeah, that makes sense. The Dodgers just kind of ran through a relatively mediocre slate this year. Or if we get a team that vaults to unexpected status, comes out of the middle and goes on a run. What's your thought as of now? You think a team like the Dodgers can just pull it all together because it doesn't matter that they've treaded water all year? Or do you think we're going to get something real funky?
Last year taught us to expect the unexpected, especially I don't think anybody thought that a Rangers versus Diamondbacks World Series was going to happen. And then you look at it this year, there's 12 teams that you could legitimately call a possibility for a World Series team. Maybe 10, maybe 11, depends on exactly how you view it. But there are 12 teams that have very good records right now. And I'm kind of leaning toward expecting the unexpected again, because I think Jeff Passan phrased it really well last night in saying that this is the weirdest baseball season in probably a decade, because there's just so many good teams. There's no real clear runaway favorite at this point. There's obviously teams that are insanely talented. You look at the Los Angeles Dodgers, the Baltimore Orioles, the Phillies. I'd put that category despite their struggles. I don't know what you'd say about the Yankees at this point, Adam.
I don't know. I mean, look, they could. I'm not writing them off, but they'd have to go on a heater, and they'd have to capture enough games where the ball doesn't end up in Clay Holmes' hand at the end. Like,
Yeah.
I still think they're a starter short, and that could be Clark Schmidt. I still think they're 2 bullpen arms short, and that could be Ian Hamilton and Nick Birdie and Scott Efros. I doubt that they find the bullpen mix by the end of the year, and I doubt that they're your world champion. But you can't rule them out.
No, you can't rule them out because, I mean, when you have Aaron Judge and you have Juan Soto, like, anything can happen. And, I mean, when you have a team with that kind of upper level talent, yeah, they can get hot in a second. So, but I still, like, on that note, I am surprised the Yankees didn't do more at the deadline. I pegged them for having at least 1 or 2 more moves in them, but yet they did not do that. So that could end up being their downfall, especially in the bullpen, because you've been calling that from before the All-Star break that they needed more bullpen reinforcements there. But I'm leaning toward a more unpredictable World Series. I still think the Brewers are a definite World Series team. The Phillies, despite their struggles, I mean, coming into the year, I had the Phillies versus the Astros in the World Series. That looked pretty good it looked bad, then it looked good. Now it's not looking so good. So it's the roller coaster of a baseball season. So we'll see. I'm still thinking that might be the most likely outcome, or at least the Phillies versus the Astros, because I predicted it. But I'm starting to lean toward the one of the crazier World Series again. So we'll see.
I am inching toward Astros Brewers. I really am. And so we'll see how things unfold in the next month and a half.
The battle of David Stearns' former teams, by the way. Mm-hmm. There we go.
Mm-hmm. I want to, we're going to do a brief check-in on the wild card as well. But before we get into that, I do want to credit Andrew Lee got it. I got you a Reese Hoskins jersey shirt. Andrew beating everybody from the hospital. You love to see it, and everybody who got outworked by Andrew Lee should be embarrassed because he's not at 100% right now, and he's still outflanking everybody.
Yeah, no, it's a good job by Andrew because sources say he's got a broken arm. So I hope your arm is okay, Andrew. And yeah, it's what we're all thinking of you over here.
Yeah.
Wait, hang on. Brewers versus Astros World Series may be the most wild take you've ever seen. That is actually a very good take. I will stand up for Adam Weinrib here. That's a good take. So
wildest take. None of these teams are that good. Wildest take. I mean, I don't, obviously prisoner of the moment on the Brewers a little bit, but the Houston Astros have been the hottest team in baseball since the middle of May, and they make the World Series or ALCS at least every year. So not that wild.
No, that was a good take. I had to stand up for you in that moment. I won't even mention that commenter's name.
I don't know who wrote that. I didn't even read it, but I guess it did happen.
No, he looks like a tubby. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's important that we recalibrate some of our postseason predictions because somebody, maybe the person who just said Astros Brewers, had the Atlanta Braves in the World Series. I thought this was finally their year. I thought maybe they'd finish behind the Phillies in the division and then go on to win it out of the wild card position in the same way the Phillies have for several years. We built this rundown to basically say, hey, looks like the Cardinals and Mets lost their footing a little bit this weekend. The Pirates are sliding, although they did win a weekend series. Do the things look better or worse for the Braves than they did a week 10 days ago when we were saying, I don't know if they have the juice to hold on. I was ready to say things looked a little bit better. Things looked a little bit brighter with their competitors falling off the map a little. And then between construction of the rundown and going live, Austin Riley comes back, tests return 6 to 8 weeks. It seems there are not 6 to 8 weeks left before the postseason begins. 6, technically. I mean, you're right up against the start of the playoffs. That means even if you get Riley back in a best case scenario, it's a compromised, rusty version of Austin Riley. What does that do for your perspective on the Braves? Still the favorites for that wild card spot, or did things look bleaker today than they did even a couple hours ago?
Yeah, they definitely look bleaker. I don't think there's any other way of putting it because there was optimism with the Braves. With all these guys coming back from the injured list, that they could end up maybe making one last big push for winning that division, especially with Philadelphia struggling, and then they lose Austin Riley for the remainder of the regular season. And who knows how much longer into the postseason he'll be out. But that is a devastating blow. Like besides Marcell Ozuna, like Austin Riley was their most consistent player. There's a reason why they paid him as much as they did a couple years ago. Like they view him as a franchise-altering cornerstone player, and losing him for this push is a huge blow. And you look at it now. I'm not going to say, oh, the Braves are going to end up missing the postseason, because that would be too much of a hot take. But I absolutely believe that with this injury, that they got their chances of a postseason berth absolutely did. It took a hit, and it's going to be curious to see exactly how they replace him, because they got guys like Brian Anderson and others in their organization that they could at least ponder. Although Anderson might be a free agent now that I think about it. But they got some options internally. I don't anticipate Whit Merrifield moving over to cover for him. So I don't know exactly how they're going to necessarily replace him, but that hurts. The Mets' case absolutely grew stronger for possibly getting that last postseason spot. Maybe there's another team that's lurking that could end up making a push, but I think the Mets are the biggest threat to this point. And especially I'm a huge Carlos Mendoza fan. I mean, stranger things have happened. Maybe the Mets make a last push and get that spot. Who knows? But that was a huge blow for the Braves.
Speaking of Carlos Mendoza, I would be remiss as a Yankee fan to not mention that two of the strongest managers in Major League Baseball, Joe Espada and Carlos Mendoza, both came off the Yankees bench, were not named Yankees manager, and have gone on to manage successfully with other organizations. Aaron Boone is in year 7. So...
Oh, yeah. Oh, absolutely. By the way, it looks like that Anderson is with the Braves. I totally forgot about that, but yeah, he is with the Braves.
Oh, there you go. I mean, yeah. Hey, nobody is allowed to say I'm not fair. If anything, I bash the Yankees a little bit too much. This is not the Bill Simmons podcast. We don't do Homer talk on this podcast.
No such thing as Homer talk.
No, nope. It's anti Homer talk. If anything, I hate my team, and I wish the best for them. And the best includes maybe the return of Gio Urshela. I'm confused, I'm not confused that the Detroit Tigers let Gio Urshela go over the weekend. I guess I'm just confused at the teams that might potentially be connected to him. Jazz Chisholm of the Yankees, mentioned earlier, believes he's coming back from that UCL injury when his 10 days on the IL is up. I'm a little dubious of that, but if he does return by end of the season, they would still take that. If he returns in the next couple of weeks, that would be fantastic. But Urshela hit release waivers, so no claims. Now just a free agent, can negotiate with anybody, could end up on anybody's roster for the rest of the year, though he's got to hurry up if he's going to be on the playoff roster. I guess I was surprised not to see a claim there, and I'm wondering which teams might be the fits here.
Yeah, I'm kind of surprised by it too. Like that to me seemed like a player who was probably going to get claimed, because I thought when Amed Rosario got DFA'd, I thought for sure he was going to end up being a guy who was claimed, and lo and behold, he was.
Yeah.
But I was surprised that Urshela didn't get claimed. I am fully expecting him to get added at some point. Like he's struggled. Like his production this year has been much lesser than it was, let's say, even the last 2 years. But he's still been a useful player. He's a veteran. He's only making $1.5 million this year. And claiming him, you would have not been on the hook for much, if at all, for that contract. So I'm kind of surprised that he did not get added. Very curious to see exactly what teams could be in the mix. But I will give you the 3 teams that I had heard for Amed Rosario. It was the Yankees, it was the Braves, and then it was also the Mariners. So I had heard those 3 teams, at least like as potential fits. I'm not saying that they were in on them, but I'm just saying that they were like potential fits. And I would look at those 3 teams here in this case as well. So we'll see. But those are the 3 I'm keeping my eyes on the closest here. Those 3.
Yeah, and again, no shade to the Tigers. Hey, maybe you could have leveraged Urshela as a deadline asset if you wanted to clear space for the youth movement. But hey, you got to get a month and a half of young, makes sense. Colt Keith is justifying that early extension. Justin Henry Malloy had some moments before his demotion. The Tigers have a nice, solid young core. Pitching, I wouldn't say deficient, but bereft. I mean, right now they basically have 2 guys in the rotation. They're going with bullpen days otherwise. So if you want to compete next year and you want to turn 2024 into the year before the year instead of just another year in a lengthy rebuild shooting for 2026, go out and spend on pitching this offseason. But I do like what I see from that young core. And hey, Jackson Jobe next year might be nice. Casey Mize might be nice. A lot of people were betting on the Tigers this year. That was probably ahead of schedule. But 2025, I feel you. I see it. The Central is both talented and somewhat up for grabs. A lot of good teams there. The Tigers could join that mix.
Oh, they absolutely they got pieces there for sure. And I know there's folks who are upset about the haul or the lack of haul for Jack Flaherty, but they're still in good shape. They got good leadership in place there with AJ Hinch and Scott Harris. Remain patient. That was not a quick fix at all when Harris took over for Al Avila. Like that was definitely more of a long-term fix than it was short-term. And I'd rather tear it all down rather than put a Band-Aid on it and call it good. Like he's doing it the right way. So remain patient with Detroit. I think good things are on the horizon there. Andrew Lee, you're asking if there's any Padres news. They're good. They are good. I don't know how much news we can get at this point of the year, but they're good. I can confidently say that. No sources needed for that.
Yeah, this is a good team. And I like the comment shout too, asking maybe the Braves and Gio Urshela, given that their need at third base is fairly obvious and fairly immediate. I like that too. That's a good fit. That feels like something to watch out for that we wouldn't have been watching out for yesterday. And speaking of wasn't watching out for, Amed Rosario, you connected him to several teams, all of which made sense. And the Braves were in that mix. And so the Braves should be in the Urshela mix. Goes to the Reds. The Reds get the claim in. He does not clear waivers. How many contenders are bummed that the Reds pulled the trigger while outranking them here? The Reds' chances of competing this year already seemed fairly low, and then the Hunter Greene injury over the weekend seems likely to sink their chances this season and possibly beyond. I mean, yeah, Amed Rosario, I guess you get good ball players whenever you have a chance to, but the Reds' chances of making the postseason are quite remote, and other clubs are closer to the bracket. So what gives here?
Yeah, I was very caught off guard. I had heard probably about 15 minutes before Heyman dropped the Reds got Rosario tweet that Rosario got claimed. I was not able to figure out who it was. I was checking with teams who I thought could make sense. And then he said it was the Reds. And I'm like, that really did not – it caught me way off guard. And I thought he was going to end up going to one of the three teams that I mentioned before. It was the Yankees, the Braves, or the Mariners. Those were the three teams I was really locked in on. But the Reds, they're not out of the postseason picture necessarily, but they're on the outside looking in. They just lost Hunter Greene. It just doesn't make much sense to me. He's not a long-term answer in that infield. Maybe they were trying to block him from some team. I don't know. Maybe they just wanted the depth and to make one last push at this entire thing. I don't know, but that one really kind of caught me off guard and kind of wondering exactly what their thinking was behind that one. On an unrelated note, I got to go back to how we started the show here. Justin, why are you wanting all these pitchers to leave their current teams? Like Skubal was not available for trade at the deadline. Like the Tigers did not really entertain that at all whatsoever. Like they want to build around him. They want to keep him in Detroit. And like, yeah, his agent is Boris. Yeah, he's going to very likely go to free agency and cash in, but a Skubal trade is not something that they entertain at the deadline. I would imagine they're probably not going to entertain in the offseason. Maybe they do. But that would not be on my mind right now. Him or Skubal and Skeens leaving should not be on your radar at all. So I would move on to a different topic.
Yeah, be nice. Be nice to the teams employing Boris-controlled superstars and let the fans enjoy what they are getting in the meantime. Some fans have the pleasure of watching talented pitchers work. Some fans have to watch Clay Holmes every couple of days. So let's let teams like the Pirates and Tigers fans enjoy what they've got going on. Going to the comment section very briefly, MOC Baseball, mock baseball. Let me know. Either way, I'll say your name correctly next time you pop up. Wants to know if there's any update on the Mets. I mean, obviously, like we said, for the Padres, tough to have Mets news these days other than to say, hey, Luis Severino looks like a nice find, and the Mets are right in that wild card mix competing with the Braves, who are more hobbled today than they were yesterday. But anything on the Mets, any promotions for fans to keep on the radar, or any thoughts on roster expansion, etc.?
No, I would say for me, I would be really encouraged by what the Mets have, both this year and going forward. Like we'll see if they're going to be a postseason team this year, but I think you should be really encouraged by the leadership that they have in place there. And getting David Stearns was a top priority for them this past offseason. And they let him hire like his own guy. Like obviously everybody and their mothers thought it was going to be Craig Counsell as their guy in New York, but Counsell obviously went to the Mets, or went to the Cubs, I should say. And then they hired Mendoza as their manager. And I think you have reasons to believe that having those two as your leadership, and I think that's going to end up being what carries them and gets them to the next level. I wouldn't rule out the Mets possibly hiring a GM at some point. I think you can look at some guys in Milwaukee as potential candidates. I think a guy like Matt Klein would make a lot of sense. I know he worked very closely with Stearns in Milwaukee. There's just some other other people that worked with Stearns in Milwaukee who I think could make sense. But yeah, I think that is going to end up being a big focus for them, at least at some point in the future here. But yeah, I'd be really encouraged by what they have and continuing to focus on pitching and defense, because those are two things that Stearns really prioritizes.
Yeah, thank you for the question, MOC Baseball, and thank you for the correct pronunciation. Appreciate it, man. It is like 4:00. I got it on the East Coast, if that's where you're watching from. I got to say, Chicago and Milwaukee food has stretched out my stomach. It's no joke. I'm like, I ate a normal size lunch. I'm hungry as hell for dinner. I don't know how I wish I had the stomach fortitude of you folks in the Midwest, because it did a number on me, but it just left me wanting more food constantly. You didn't warn me, Robert, that I was going to go to Milwaukee and just like be ready for gigantic meals at all hours of the day, but that is what happened.
Oh, that is definitely what happens. And yeah, you got the Midwest experience there. I'm glad, because I mean, it's not good for overall gut health for over an extended period of time.
My gut health sucks. My gut is as bad as Aaron Boone's right now when he tries to look at the bullpen in the 8th and 9th.
Jesus, you are crazy. I can tell you're not high in the late innings for the Yankees. But I will answer this one. Showtime LA, Teoscar extension.
Mm-hmm.
I'd be very surprised if that happened during the season. I'd be very surprised. I'll leave it at that.
Well, either way, it was a good play by the Dodgers to secure him for this season. I'm still on the Dodgers train. Don't let Astros Brewers distract you, but that's where I feel like the wind is blowing right now. But it could change by Thursday. Another team might have emerged from this pack. The standings shift with every series at this point. And this could be a deeply odd season, as Jeff Passan wrote, but that could lead to an extremely exciting postseason with a whole bunch of coin flips. Even my Yankees, who I've been ragging on for this entire podcast, are a heater away from an October run. And yeah, again, Juan Soto, how much money is he getting in free agency? The comment section talking about that. Feels like the Yankees are poised to spend a lot. Feels like the Mets are poised to compete with them. Feels like that number is going to climb very high, but he's under Yankees control right now. You can only say that for one team. Aaron Judge is there as well. Jazz Chisholm thinks he'll be back. Garrett Cole is rounding into form. I'm being nice to the Yankees down the stretch of this podcast because I was rude as the show went on, but anybody from this group could jump out. Just color me pessimistic that it's my team, but anybody from this big middle could jump out. We could really get ourselves a hell of a postseason. No better time to be joining us on the Baseball Insiders. We're here every Monday, Thursday, 3:30 Eastern time to recap the last couple days in roster moves, prospect promotions, extension chatter, and ball talk. And if you want to talk to us in between shows, the Baseball Insiders Discord is the spot to be. You can ask us questions. I'm going to head to the Discord as soon as we're done here and try to get a private stream together for our All-Stars, but feel free to join into the Rumor Mill tier as well. Shout out to the Moonshot. Please subscribe if you haven't. The weekly baseball email newsletter from fansided.com's MLB squad, including Robert Murray. And who knows, I might even show up sometimes if they ask me. I don't know. I'd be down.
He's always invited. Don't let him fool you.
I'd be down. I don't know. They won't return my calls. No, I think I could probably get on there. Maybe I will. I'll agitate. Thank you for joining us, everybody. And Robert Murray, most importantly, thank you for joining me on the show to help us break down the week in action.
Yeah, thank you for having me. Always a pleasure. Lots of stuff going on in baseball. We'll be seeing you in the Discord. We'll see you on Thursday. Adam Weinrib, thank you. Joanne, our producer, thank you very much. Everyone who watched the show today, we appreciate you, and we'll see you on Thursday.
Absolutely. See everybody back here, same place, same time, Thursday afternoon. Take care, everybody.
Thank you, everybody.